Robert Chen had learned a long time ago that success wasn't about forgetting where you came from. It was about remembering. Every Saturday morning, he made sure to take his daughter Maya to the same diner where he used to count pennies for coffee, back when he was building his first tech startup from a cramped apartment. The place hadn't changed much in 15 years. Same red vinyl booths, same black and white checkered floor, same smell of bacon and fresh coffee that could wake up the whole neighborhood. Maya was 8 years old now, and these Saturday mornings were sacred to both of them. No phones at the table. No talk about work or school stress. Just pancakes, orange juice, and whatever was on her mind that week. Today she was telling him about her friend's pet hamster and how it had escaped and they found it sleeping in a shoe. Robert smiled and nodded, sipping his coffee while the morning sun streamed through the window beside their booth. The diner was busy like always. Weekend mornings brought in everyone from construction workers grabbing breakfast before their shifts to families with kids still in pajamas under their coats. The noise was comfortable. Dishes clanking in the kitchen, conversations mixing together into a steady hum, the occasional burst of laughter from the counter where the regulars sat. Their usual waitress, Linda, had been working here longer than Robert had been coming. She knew he took his coffee black, knew Maya liked extra syrup but would only eat the pancakes if they weren't touching the eggs. Linda was the kind of person who remembered everyone's story, asked about your sick grandmother, and somehow made you feel like you were the only customer even when she was juggling 6 tables. Robert was listening to Maya explain the elaborate hamster rescue mission when he noticed his daughter's attention had drifted. She was staring at something across the diner, her face turning serious in that way kids get when they're thinking hard about something. He followed her gaze to a corner booth near the back. A young woman sat there alone. Well, not completely alone. She had a baby with her. Couldn't have been more than 5 or 6 months old, wrapped up in a blanket that looked like it had been washed too many times. The woman looked tired, not the normal tired that parents get. This was something deeper, the kind of exhaustion that settles into your bones when you've been running on empty for too long. She was studying the menu like it was a difficult test, her phone in one hand, thumb moving as she seemed to be calculating something. Her jacket was worn at the elbows and her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. The baby started to fuss a little and she immediately shifted, bouncing gently while still trying to read the menu. There was something about the way she moved, careful and worried at the same time, that made you notice her. Linda approached the woman's table with her usual warm smile. Robert couldn't hear what was being said, but he could see the interaction clearly. The young mother spoke quietly, pointing at something on the menu. Linda wrote it down and nodded. From what Robert could tell, the woman had only ordered coffee and maybe oatmeal. She asked Linda something else, and the waitress nodded again, before heading back toward the kitchen. Maya tugged on her father's sleeve. Her pancakes sat forgotten on her plate. "Daddy," she said, her voice quiet but insistent. "That lady looks really sad." Robert glanced over again. The woman was trying to settle her baby who was getting fussier. She looked around the diner with an expression he recognized. It was the look of someone who was trying very hard to hold everything together and wasn't sure how much longer they could manage it. She glanced toward the door every few seconds, either expecting someone or worried about something. "She does seem like she might be having a tough day," Robert agreed, turning back to his daughter, but Maya wasn't letting it go. She had that determined look she got when something bothered her, the same expression she wore when she saw a kid being left out at school or when their neighbor's cat went missing. "Her baby's blanket looks old," Maya observed. "And she looks scared." "Why does she look scared?" It was a good question. Robert looked again, this time with the attention he usually reserved for business meetings. The woman checked her phone, glanced at the door, looked down at her baby. She was sitting in a way that suggested she wanted to be noticed as little as possible, tucked into that corner booth like she was trying to disappear. Her hands shook slightly when she lifted her water glass. "Sometimes people go through hard times, sweetheart," Robert said carefully. "We don't always know what's happening in someone else's life." Maya nodded slowly, but her eyes stayed on the woman and baby. The little one was crying now, not loud but persistent, the kind of cry that meant he was uncomfortable or hungry. The mother lifted him to her shoulder, swaying gently, whispering something Robert couldn't hear. She looked like she might cry herself. "Daddy," Maya said again, and this time there was something different in her voice. Not just curiosity or sympathy, but a kind of urgency. We should help her. Robert set down his coffee cup. This wasn't the first time Maya had noticed someone struggling. She had her mother's heart, that ability to see past what people showed on the surface to what they were really feeling underneath. His wife had been gone for 3 years now, taken too quickly by an illness that gave them no time to prepare. In those dark months after, it was often Maya who reminded him to keep looking outward, to keep caring about the world beyond their grief. "What kind of help do you think she needs?" he asked, genuinely curious about what his daughter was thinking. Maya thought about this seriously, her small forehead wrinkling the way it did when she was working through a problem. "Well, she only ordered coffee in that little bowl. But she has a baby, and babies need their mommies to eat good food so they can make milk. You told me that when Aunt Jenny had her baby." Robert felt something shift in his chest. His 8-year-old daughter had just made an observation that most adults would walk right past. "That's very thoughtful of you to notice that." "And her blanket for the baby looks really thin," Maya continued, warming to her subject now. "It's getting cold outside. Remember you made me wear my heavy coat this morning? That baby doesn't even have a heavy blanket." She was right. October in their town meant morning frost on car windows and afternoons that barely made it to 60 degrees. That thin blanket wouldn't be enough for a baby, especially if they were spending any time outdoors. "You always say we should help people when we can," Maya pressed on. "You helped Mrs. Park when her car broke down in the rain. You gave Mr. Johnson a job at your company when he lost his old one. Why can't we help that lady?" Robert looked at his daughter, this small person who somehow understood things that took him 40 years to learn. After his wife died, after building his business from nothing, after reaching a level of success he'd once thought impossible, he'd made himself a promise. He would never forget what it felt like to struggle. He would never become the kind of wealthy person who stopped seeing people as people. "You're absolutely right," he told Maya. "We should help. What do you think we should do?" Maya's answer came quickly, like she'd already been planning it. "We should buy her breakfast. A real breakfast, with eggs and toast and maybe fruit, and something for the baby too if babies eat food yet." She paused, thinking. "And Daddy, we shouldn't tell her it's from us because that might make her feel embarrassed. When I fell down at school and ripped my pants, I felt really embarrassed when everyone stared. We should make it so she doesn't feel bad." Linda came back to their table right at that moment, balancing plates and refilling water glasses with the kind of efficiency that came from 20 years of waitressing. Maya immediately leaned forward conspiratorially, gesturing for Linda to come closer. "Can we buy that lady with the baby whatever she wants to eat?" Maya whispered, though her whisper was loud enough that Robert had to smile. "My daddy will pay for it. But don't tell her it's from us. Just say it's a special or something the diner does." Linda looked surprised for a moment, then her eyes got a little shiny. She glanced at Robert, who nodded his agreement. "You've got yourself a deal, sweetie," Linda said to Maya, her voice warm. "That's one of the kindest things I've seen in a long time." Robert watched as Linda headed toward the young mother's table. But something was bothering him, a feeling he couldn't quite shake. He'd made his fortune by paying attention to details, by seeing patterns others missed. And what he was seeing now didn't add up to just a rough day or even a rough week. The way that woman kept checking the door, the careful way she counted coins on the table, the desperation in how she held that baby. This was bigger than missing a meal. He thought about his own journey. The years after his wife died, when he was trying to run a growing company while raising a toddler alone. The nights he'd sat at his kitchen table surrounded by bills he wasn't sure he could pay, wondering if he was going to lose everything. He'd been lucky. He'd had family who helped with Maya. He'd had business partners who gave him grace when he needed it. He'd had just enough resources to get by until things turned around. Not everyone got lucky like that. "Maya," he said slowly, "I think I should go talk to that lady. Would that be okay with you?" His daughter nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, but be nice, Daddy. She looks like she might cry." Robert stood up, smoothing down his shirt. He wasn't wearing any hing fancy, just jeans and a sweater. But he was suddenly aware that everything he had on probably cost more than that woman's entire outfit. He approached her table carefully, not wanting to startle her or make her feel threatened. Up close, she looked even younger than he'd thought. Maybe mid-20s at most. The baby in her arms had soft brown eyes and chubby cheeks. But Robert noticed a rash on his neck and the way the little guy kept rubbing at his ears. The mother's clothes were clean but worn, the kind of worn that comes from being washed over and over because they're the only ones you have. "Excuse me," Robert said gently. "I'm really sorry to bother you." The woman looked up and he saw fear flash across her face before she controlled it. Her arms tightened around her baby protectively. "I'm not doing anything wrong," she said quickly. "I ordered. I'm a paying customer." The defensive tone told Robert everything he needed to know about what this woman had been through recently. She'd been judged, probably kicked out of places, definitely made to feel less than human. No, he said quickly, holding up his hands. "I didn't mean to scare you. My name is Robert, and that's my daughter Maya over there in the blue coat. She's the one who actually noticed you first. Kids have this way of seeing things that adults miss, you know?" The woman relaxed slightly, though she still looked wary. Her eyes went to Maya, who waved cheerfully from their booth. Something in the young mother's face softened just a little. "I'm Christine," she said quietly, "and this is my son, Tyler." "He's beautiful," Robert said, and he meant it. Despite the rash and the fussiness, the baby had that perfect quality that all babies have. That reminder of hope and new beginnings. "How old?" 6 months next week." Christine's voice was barely above a whisper. "He was premature, so he's small for his age." Robert pulled out a chair, moving slowly so he wouldn't seem aggressive. "Would you mind if I sat down for just a minute? I promise I'm not a creep or trying to sell you anything. I just have a feeling you might be going through something difficult. And my daughter raised a pretty good point about neighbors helping neighbors." Christine looked at him for a long moment, and Robert could see her trying to decide if she could trust him. Finally, she nodded. "I guess sitting is free." He sat down across from her, choosing his words carefully. "I'm going to be direct because I think you're probably tired of people dancing around things. You look like someone who hasn't slept in days. You're in a diner at 9 in the morning on a Saturday with a baby. You ordered the cheapest thing on the menu, and you keep looking at that door like you're either expecting trouble or hoping for rescue. Am I warm?" Tears immediately filled Christine's eyes. For a second, Robert thought she might tell him to leave. But instead, she seemed to collapse inward, like someone who'd been holding up a wall and finally didn't have the strength anymore. "I'm trying," she said, her voice breaking. "I'm trying so hard." "I believe you," Robert said simply, and then the story came out. Not all at once, but in pieces like water breaking through a dam. Christine had been working as a nursing assistant at a care facility. The job didn't pay much, but it was steady and she was good at it. Then Tyler came early, 2 months before his due date. He'd spent 8 weeks in the NICU. 8 weeks of sitting by an incubator, of watching machines breathe for her baby, of medical bills that piled up faster than she could count them. "The father?" Robert asked gently. Christine laughed bitterly. "Gone before Tyler even came home from the hospital. Turns out some people only love you when things are easy." She'd burned through her savings paying the hospital bills. Then the collections started calling. She'd maxed out the one credit card she had. Her apartment was month to month, and when she couldn't make rent for 3 months in a row, the landlord finally evicted her. That was 4 days ago. "We've been sleeping in my car," Christine said, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. "It's a piece of junk, but at least it runs. I've been parking in different places each night so nobody calls the cops on me. Last night we were at a rest stop off the highway. Tyler cried most of the night because he was cold, and I couldn't warm up the car for too long because I'm almost out of gas." Robert felt anger building in his chest. Not at Christine, but at a system that could let this happen. A woman who'd worked hard, who'd faced a medical emergency, who was doing everything right, sleeping in a car with a baby because she'd had the audacity to have bad luck. "Do you have family?" he asked. She shook her head. "Mom died when I was 18. Dad wasn't in the picture. I've got an aunt in Florida, but we're not close. I called her last week and she said she couldn't help." "Friends?" "Lost touch with most of them. Being broke has a way of showing you who your real friends are." Christine looked down at Tyler, who had finally settled against her shoulder. "I have an interview Monday for a job at a call center. It doesn't pay as much as my nursing job, but they said they'd hire me. I just need to figure out childcare, and I need to find a place to shower before the interview. And I need gas money to get there, and I need—" She stopped, overwhelmed by the list of needs that seemed to have no end. Robert sat there absorbing everything Christine had told him. Tyler had fallen asleep against his mother's shoulder, his little chest rising and falling with baby snores. The rash on his neck looked angry and uncomfortable, and Robert made a mental note of it. "How much is in your bank account right now?" he asked. The question was blunt, maybe too personal, but they were past the point of polite small talk. Christine hesitated, then pulled out her phone. She opened her banking app and turned it so Robert could see. The balance read $37.62. That's it, she said. That's everything I have in the world except for what's in my car, which isn't much. Some clothes, diapers, a few of Tyler's things. I sold my laptop and my TV last month to make rent. And you were going to spend some of that $37 here this morning. The diner's warm, Christine said simply, and I needed somewhere to think. I've been driving around all week trying to figure out what to do. Every shelter I called is full. There's a waiting list 3 weeks long. The churches I called either couldn't help or wanted me to sit through a service first. And I couldn't do that with Tyler crying. I even went to social services, but the woman there said without an address she couldn't process my application for assistance. Robert shook his head. The system was supposed to help people in exactly Christine's situation, but instead it put up so many barriers that the people who needed help most couldn't access it. He'd seen it before in his work with various charities, but hearing it firsthand from someone living it made his blood boil. What about the job on Monday? He asked. Even if you get it, you said it doesn't pay as much as your nursing job. $11 an hour, Christine confirmed, which after taxes is maybe $350 a week if I'm lucky. Childcare costs $200 a week minimum. That leaves me with $150 for everything else. Food, gas, eventually rent if I can save up enough for a deposit somewhere. She laughed without humor. The math doesn't work. I know it doesn't work. But what choice do I have? Robert was quiet for a moment thinking. His business brain was already calculating, planning, seeing solutions where Christine only saw walls. But he needed to be careful. He'd helped people before who had immediately become suspicious or resentful of his wealth, or who'd taken advantage. He needed to understand who Christine really was before he did anything. Tell me about your nursing job, he said. Why'd you like it? Christine's face changed when she talked about her work. The exhaustion was still there, but underneath it was a spark of pride. I was good at it, she said. Really good. I worked mostly with elderly patients, helping them with daily activities, medication reminders, companionship. Some of them didn't have family who visited. I was the person they looked forward to seeing. She told him about Mrs. Patterson, who had dementia and thought Christine was her daughter. About Mr. Lee, who'd been a veteran and told the same war stories every day like they were new. About how she'd learned to braid hair and give perfect sponge baths and know when someone was having a bad day, just from how they greeted her. I was studying to get my LPN license, Christine continued. I was taking classes at night online. I was halfway through when Tyler came early and everything fell apart. I had to drop out because I couldn't afford it anymore and couldn't focus anyway. Robert nodded, filing all of this away. Christine wasn't someone looking for a handout. She was someone who'd worked hard, who'd been building towards something better, who'd been knocked down by circumstances beyond her control. That mattered. Tyler stirred and started fussing again. Christine immediately shifted into mom mode, checking his diaper, feeling his forehead, trying to soothe him. But the baby just cried harder, an uncomfortable wail that made other diners look over. He's been fussy like this for 2 days, Christine said, worry clear in her voice. I think he might be getting sick, but I can't afford to take him to the doctor. I've been giving him infant Tylenol that I got from the dollar store, but I don't think it's helping. What about his regular doctor? Robert asked, though he already knew the answer. Lost my insurance when I lost my job. I tried to, get on Medicaid, but again, no address means they can't process it. It's like the system is designed to keep you down once you're down. Robert excused himself and walked back to his table where Maya was waiting. She looked up at him with expectant eyes. Is she okay, Daddy? No, sweetheart, she's not okay at all. She and her baby don't have a home. They've been sleeping in her car. Maya's eyes went wide with horror. But that's not safe. What if it gets really cold? What if someone tries to hurt them? Those are exactly the problems we need to help with, Robert agreed. He pulled out his phone and started making calls. First was his assistant, Rachel, who he knew would be working even though it was Saturday because she was dedicated like that. Rachel, I need you to do something for me immediately, he said when she answered. I need one of our vacant rental properties made ready today, the 2-bedroom house on Maple Street. I want it stocked with basics, food, toiletries, cleaning supplies, everything someone would need to move in immediately. And I need the utilities turned on if they're not already. Rachel didn't ask questions. She'd worked with Robert long enough to know that when he used that tone, it was important. "I can have it ready by this afternoon," she said. "Anything else?" "Yes, call Dr. Patel. Tell him I'm sending a woman and her baby to see him today. The baby's about 6 months old and has some kind of rash, possibly an ear infection. Tell him I'll handle all the costs personally." His next call was to Jennifer Wu, who ran the daycare at his company headquarters. "Jennifer, I know this is last minute, but I need to ask if you have any openings for an infant. 6 months old, needs care starting Monday if possible." "We've got a waiting list, Robert, you know that," Jennifer said, but her tone was already softening. "But let me look. For you, I'll find a way to make it work." The final call was to hospital administrator David Torres. Robert's tech company had provided and maintained the hospital's entire digital infrastructure at a discount for years, which meant David owed him more than a few favors. "David, I've got a situation," Robert said. "I've got a young woman who's trained as a nursing assistant, was working toward her LPN. Life hit her hard and she lost everything. She's got a job interview Monday at some call center making $11 an hour, which is criminal given her skills. Any chance your hospital has openings for nursing assistants?" "Always," David said immediately. "Good nursing assistants are gold." "Healthcare experience?" 2 years in elderly care. References would be good if she hasn't burned those bridges. Smart, dedicated, wants to get her LPN eventually. Have her call my office Monday morning. I'll make sure we fast-track her application. If she's as good as you say, we can start her at $16 an hour with benefits. And we have a program that helps employees finish their nursing education." Robert hung up from his last call and looked at Maya. His daughter had been watching him with rapt attention, and now she was practically bouncing in her seat. "What did you do, Daddy?" she asked excitedly. "We're going to help Christine and Tyler," he said. "But I need to go talk to her again, and this time it's going to take a while. Are you okay waiting here with Linda? You can order more pancakes if you want." Maya nodded seriously. "I'm good at waiting. This is important." Robert walked back to Christine's table. She looked up at him nervously, probably wondering if he was coming to tell her she needed to leave. Tyler was still fussing, and she looked like she was at the end of her rope. "Christine," Robert said, sitting down again. "I'm going to say something, and I need you to let me finish before you respond. Can you do that?" She nodded, looking confused and slightly scared. "I've made some phone calls. I own several properties around town, rental houses mostly. I've got a 2-bedroom on Maple Street that just became vacant. It's furnished, utilities are included, and it's yours to live in rent-free for 6 months. Christine's mouth fell open, but Robert held up a hand. "I've also arranged for a pediatrician to see Tyler this afternoon. Dr. Patel is a friend of mine, and he's one of the best. He'll check out that rash and make sure Tyler is healthy. No charge. I'm also getting you a spot in the daycare at my company headquarters starting Monday. The center is excellent, and the cost will be subsidized based on income." Tears were streaming down Christine's face now, but Robert wasn't done. "The job interview you have Monday? I want you to cancel it. I've got you an interview at County General Hospital instead. The pay is $16 an hour to start, full benefits, and they have a program to help you finish your LPN training while you work. The job's not guaranteed, you still have to interview, and they need to check your references. But the hospital administrator is a friend, and he's agreed to fast-track your application." Christine was openly sobbing now, trying to hold Tyler while her whole body shook with the force of her crying. Other diners were staring, but Robert didn't care. Let them stare. Why? Christine managed to choke out. "You don't even know me. Why would you do all this?" Robert thought about how to answer that. He could tell her about his own struggles after his wife died. He could tell her about the people who'd helped him when he needed it. He could tell her about his business philosophy that investing in people was the best investment you could make. All of that was true, but it wasn't the real answer. "Because my 8-year-old daughter looked over here and saw someone who needed help," he said simply. "She reminded me that we're supposed to take care of each other, and because I've been where you are, maybe not exactly where you are, but close enough to remember what it feels like to be desperate. Close enough to know that the only thing standing between someone sleeping in their car and someone sleeping in a bed is luck and opportunity." He leaned forward, making sure she was looking at him. "You're not a charity case, Christine. You're an investment. I see someone who worked hard, who got knocked down by circumstances beyond her control, who's trying everything possible to take care of her child. That's exactly the kind of person any community should want to support. So here's the deal. You take the help. You get back on your feet. You finish your nursing training. And then when you're stable and doing well, you help someone else who needs it. That's how this works. Christine couldn't speak. She tried several times, but no words came out. Finally, she just nodded, clutching Tyler close to her chest. Linda arrived at that moment with a massive breakfast plate for Christine. Eggs, bacon, hash browns, toast, fruit, pancakes on the side. On the house, honey, Linda said, though she winked at Maya across the diner. Figured you could use a real meal. Robert stood up. Eat your breakfast. Take your time. When you're done, Linda's going to drive you and Tyler to Dr. Patel's office. I've texted you his address. He'd gotten her number from the form she'd filled out when ordering. After the doctor, she'll take you to the house on Maple Street. There's a key under the flower pot on the porch. Red flower pot, can't miss it. My assistant is making sure the place is stocked with everything you need, including diapers and formula for Tyler. He pulled out his wallet and took out $500 in cash. Christine's eyes went wide. This is to get you through the next week or so, he said, putting the money on the table. Gas, groceries, whatever you need. It's not a loan. You don't owe me anything except to show up for that interview Monday morning ready to knock their socks off. I don't know what to say, Christine whispered, staring at the money like it might disappear if she looked away. Say thank you and eat your breakfast, Robert said with a smile. Tyler needs you to be strong, which means you need to be fed. He went back to his own table where Maya immediately hugged him around the waist. That was really good, Daddy, she said. Mommy would be proud. The mention of his late wife made Robert's throat tight. Yeah, he said. Yeah, she would be. They finished their own breakfast while Christine ate. Robert watched her between bites of his now cold eggs. She ate slowly at first, like she couldn't quite believe the food was real. Then hunger took over and she ate like someone who hadn't had a proper meal in days. Which she probably hadn't. Tyler had calmed down too, maybe sensing his mother's relief. Other diners had noticed what was happening. Robert caught people whispering, pointing discreetly. Linda was telling the story to the cook through the kitchen window. The manager had come out and was watching with tears in her eyes. When Christine finally finished eating, she came over to Robert and Maya's table. Tyler was alert now, looking around with curious baby eyes. I need to say this, Christine said, her voice stronger than it had been. I was sitting over there thinking about the worst things. I was thinking maybe I should drive to my aunt in Florida even though she doesn't want us. I was thinking maybe I should give Tyler up for adoption so he could have a better life. I was thinking maybe I'd failed at everything and there was no way forward. She wiped her eyes. And then your daughter looked over and saw me. Really saw me. And you came over and listened. And now my whole life is different. I don't have words big enough to thank you. I don't think any words exist that are big enough. Maya reached out and touched Tyler's tiny hand. The baby wrapped his fingers around hers and Maya giggled with delight. He's so little, she said. Daddy, look how little his fingers are. Babies have a way of reminding us what's impo. Tant, Robert said. He looked at Christine. You're going to be okay now. It might not be easy, but you're going to make it. And Tyler's going to grow up with a mother who fought like hell to give him a good life. That's worth more than any amount of money. Linda came over with the keys to her car. Ready when you are, honey, she said to Christine. Let's get that baby checked out. The news spread through the small town faster than anyone expected. By Sunday afternoon, Robert's phone was ringing off the hook. Local reporters wanted to interview him. The mayor called to thank him for his generosity. The diner became a local landmark practically overnight, with people stopping by just to see the booth where it all happened. Robert declined every interview request. He released a simple statement through his company's PR department that said, "My daughter saw someone in need and asked how we could help. I think if more of us listened to the simple wisdom of children and actually acted on it, we'd live in a kinder world. This isn't about me. This is about remembering that we're all human beings who deserve dignity and opportunity." But he couldn't stop other people from talking. Linda told the story to everyone who came into the diner. Other customers who'd been there that Saturday posted about it on social media. Someone had even taken a picture of Maya holding Tyler's hand, and it went viral with captions about kindness and humanity. Christine and Tyler moved into the house on Maple Street that Saturday afternoon. Dr. Patel confirmed that Tyler had an ear infection and the rash was from a mild allergy to the laundry detergent Christine had been using, probably a cheap brand that was too harsh for baby skin. He prescribed antibiotics for the ear infection and recommended a better detergent. Within 2 days, Tyler was a completely different baby, happy, playful, sleeping through the night. Christine's interview at the hospital on Monday went better than she'd dreamed. David Torres personally sat in on it, and he was impressed by her knowledge and experience. They hired her on the spot with a start date the following Monday, giving her a week to get settled. The benefits package included health insurance that covered both her and Tyler, dental, vision, and the employee education program that would cover 75% of her LPN courses. Robert checked in on them a few times that first week, always bringing Maya along. His daughter had become attached to Tyler, bringing him toys and books and asking 1,000 questions about babies. Christine showed them how she'd set up the little house, how Tyler had his own room with a crib that Rachel had arranged to be delivered. The refrigerator was stocked, the utilities worked, and for the first time in months, Christine could breathe. "I keep thinking I'm going to wake up and this will all be a dream," Christine told Robert during one visit. They were sitting in her small living room while Maya read a picture book to Tyler on the floor. "I keep waiting for the catch, for someone to tell me it was all a mistake." "No catch," Robert assured her. "No strings. Just a hand up when you needed it. But why?" Christine asked again. "I keep trying to understand. People don't just do this for strangers." Robert watched his daughter with the baby. Maya was making funny faces and Tyler was giggling. That pure baby laugh that sounds like the best thing in the world. "When my wife died," he said quietly, "I was lost. I had this toddler, a business that was taking off, and no idea how to do any of it alone. People helped me. My sister-in-law moved in for 6 months to help with Maya. My business partners covered for me when I needed to leave early for daycare pickup. My neighbors brought meals. The woman who ran Maya's daycare let me pay late when cash was tight." He turned to Christine. "I never forgot that. When I made it, when the money started coming in and the business grew, I promised myself I wouldn't become the kind of person who forgets what it's like to struggle. Money's just a tool. It's what you do with it that matters." Christine nodded slowly. "And what you want me to do when I'm back on my feet is help someone else." "Exactly. That's how we build a better world. Not by hoarding what we have, but by sharing it and trusting that it'll come back around when we need it." On Christine's first day of work, Robert and Maya stopped by to wish her luck. She was wearing new scrubs that the hospital had provided. Her hair pulled back professionally, looking like a completely different person from the desperate woman in the diner 2 weeks ago. "I'm nervous," she admitted. "What if I'm not as good at this as I remember? What if I mess up?" "Then you learn and get better," Robert said. "That's what jobs are for. But you won't mess up. You know this work. You're good at it. Trust yourself." Maya hugged Christine's legs. "You've got this," she said with the absolute confidence of an 8-year-old. "And Tyler will be right here when you get back." The daycare at Robert's headquarters was indeed excellent. Tyler thrived there, surrounded by other babies and toddlers with trained staff who specialized in infant care. The cost on Christine's salary was manageable, and she could visit during her lunch break since the hospital was only 15 minutes away. 3 months passed. Christine completed her probationary period at the hospital and received glowing reviews. She'd already started her online LPN courses again, studying in the evenings after Tyler went to sleep. She'd made friends with other nurses, found a church she liked, and slowly began building a life that felt stable. She also started paying rent. Robert had told her the 6 months were rent-free, but Christine insisted on paying something. "It matters to me," she told him. "I need to know I'm contributing." They settled on an amount that was affordable for her but still let her save money for the future. But the most profound changes weren't in Christine's life. They were rippling out through the entire community in ways no one expected. Maya started something she called the Kindness Club at her school. At first it was just her and 3 friends who wanted to do nice things for people. They made cards for residents at the nursing home. They collected coats for a homeless shelter. They raised money for the animal rescue by selling lemonade. Then other kids joined, and then parents got involved. Within 3 months, the Kindness Club had 40 student members and had organized 6 different community service projects. The local newspaper did a feature on them, and Maya explained very seriously that they'd started the club because sometimes grown-ups forget to help people, and kids need to remind them. The diner became a hub for community connection in a new way. Linda started a bulletin board where people could post if they needed help or if they had something to offer. Someone looking for work, someone with a couch to give away, someone offering free lawn care for elderly neighbors. The board filled up fast and connections started happening. People helping people just because they could. Other businesses in town started paying attention. The grocery store began donating day-old bread and produce to the food bank. The mechanic offered free oil changes to single parents. The hair salon did free cuts for people going to job interviews. It was like the whole town had remembered that they were a community, not just individuals living near each other. Robert watched all of this unfold with quiet satisfaction. He'd helped one person one time because his daughter asked him to, and somehow that one act had reminded an entire town that kindness was contagious, that helping each other wasn't just the right thing to do, it was the thing that made life worth living. 6 months after that Saturday morning in the diner, there was a small gathering at Christine's house. She'd insisted on hosting a dinner to celebrate her successfully passing the first semester of her LPN program. Robert and Maya were there, along with Linda from the diner, Dr. Patel, and a few of Christine's new friends from work. Tyler was walking now, toddling around on chubby legs and getting into everything. He was healthy, happy, hitting all his milestones. Christine had gained weight in a good way. The gaunt, desperate look replaced by someone who was thriving. Over dessert, Christine stood up to make a toast. "I practiced this," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "But I'm probably going to cry anyway, so fair warning." She looked at Robert and Maya. 6 months ago, I was sitting in a diner with $37 to my name and no idea how I was going to make it through the next day. I was seriously considering giving up my son because I thought I couldn't take care of him. And then this little girl looked over and saw me. Really saw me. Not as a problem or a statistic, but as a person who needed help. Maya was holding Tyler's hand, keeping him from grabbing the cake. "Robert, you gave me more than a house or a job or money," Christine continued. "You gave me back my dignity. You gave me the chance to be the mother Tyler deserves. You gave me hope when I'd completely run out. I can never repay that, but I can promise that I'll spend the rest of my life paying it forward." She wiped her eyes. "I've already started. There's a woman at the hospital, another nursing assistant who's going through a rough patch. I helped her apply for the employee assistance program, and I'm letting her borrow my old textbooks. It's not much, but it's something. And I'm going to keep doing things like that for as long as I can." Robert raised his glass. "That's all any of us can do. See the people around us. Help when we can. Trust that kindness multiplies." "To kindness," Linda added. "To kindness," everyone echoed. Later, as Robert and Maya were leaving, Christine stopped them at the door. Tyler was asleep on her shoulder, his little face peaceful and perfect. "I want Maya to know something," Christine said. She knelt down so she was at eye level with the girl. "You changed my life. Not your dad, even though he did all the big things, you. Because you saw me and you cared. That's the most important thing anyone can do. So thank you, Maya. Thank you for having a big heart." Maya hugged Christine carefully around Tyler. "I'm glad you and Tyler are happy," she said. "That's what matters." In the car on the way home, Maya was quiet, looking out the window at the dark streets. Finally, she said, "Daddy, do you think we'll see someone else who needs help?" "Probably," Robert said. "The world's full of people struggling." "Good," Maya said firmly. "Because I'm going to keep looking. And when I see them, we're going to help, okay?" Robert reached over and squeezed his daughter's hand. "Okay, sweetheart. We'll keep looking together," and they did. It became their tradition, that Saturday morning breakfast at the diner. But now they went with eyes open, looking for people who needed to be seen. Sometimes it was buying someone's meal. Sometimes it was a conversation and a connection to resources. Sometimes it was something bigger. The story of the waitress's daughter who asked her millionaire father to help a struggling mother spread far beyond their small town. People shared it online, told their own stories of kindness received and given, created their own versions of Maya's Kindness Club. But for Robert and Maya, it was never about the attention or the praise. It was about remembering that every person they passed had a story, that everyone was fighting battles they couldn't see, and that sometimes the smallest act of seeing someone and caring could change everything. Years later, when Tyler was old enough to understand, Christine would tell him about the day his life changed, about the little girl who noticed them in a diner, and her father who chose to help. She'd tell him that he was alive and healthy, and had opportunities because strangers decided to act like family. And Tyler, like Maya before him, would grow up understanding that kindness wasn't something you did when it was convenient. It was something you did because you were human, and the person next to you was human, and that was reason enough. The waitress's daughter had asked her millionaire father to help a struggling woman with a baby. But the real story wasn't about money or generosity. It was about a child who looked across a crowded diner and saw someone who needed to be seen. It was about choosing to care when caring would have been easy to ignore. It was about understanding that we're all just people trying to make it through, and sometimes the difference between making it and not making it is someone who chooses to help. That was the real story, and it was one worth telling.